So there I was, paralyzed from the neck down in the hospital. And I'd been there 14 days. This was my second time to be in the hospital. They tried every medication that was available, because once you're in the hospital, they can try different treatments, just not as an outpatient. So they tried everything, but I was so resistant to medication that they were testing me for colon cancer. They checked me for lung cancer. They were checking me for all this stuff because it didn't make sense that I wasn't getting better. And I was there for 14 days, paralyzed from the neck down. I had lost my voice for the most part. My lungs were going paralyzed. So if they continued to go paralyzed, I would need to be on a trach. My colon was weak, which was a good time. And the doctors came in and said, I don't know what to tell you. There's nothing else that we can do. We've done everything. We tried everything. And these are really, really good doctors. It was UT Southwestern.
Yeah.
Really amazing. I cannot recommend them enough. But, you know, at that point, you know, they couldn't justify to insurance to keep me there anymore because I wasn't improving. They tried everything and tested me for everything. They can't just let me lay in the hospital paying on, you know, anyways. So my parents came and got my stuff to take me home from the hospital. And I thought to myself, why am I not getting better?
The One Shot podcast, what do we say it is? It's equipping, empowering people to take advantage of this one shot that we have at life. Our guest today is a friend of a friend, and we were just reminiscing over passing each other years back, and you'll hear kind of this point of her story, but there's nobody I think that we've had on this show that has epitomized taking advantage of this one shot at life more than our guest. So today, thank you, coming live from her new home in Cabo San Lucas, Mexico. We have Courtney Runyon. Thank you, Courtney, for joining us.
Thank you, Tyler, for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, well, we're excited to walk through your journey, but let's just give our audience a chance to get to know you, where you come from, what your background is, where you grew up, family dynamics, kind of what your interests were early in life. I mean, We've got like a six hours blocked, so just start at the beginning and let's get into the details.
Yeah, perfect. My interest before was definitely having a good time. I feel like that's been something I've done my whole life. But I'm from Plano, Texas, born, raised, and then I went to University of Oklahoma, Sooners.
Boomer.
After that, moved back to Dallas. Started actually working for a company called Ferguson. So I had to learn how to drive a forklift, did that for a year. I used to be able to throw on 80-pound bags of concrete. Not anymore at all. But at one point, I could. And after that, decided to go traveling around the world for a year. So I quit my career, sold everything I owned, went backpacking around the world for a year through a lot of places. I went through 6 continents. And when I got back, moved to Vegas, and did the whole Vegas thing, but that's a summary of.
Let's dig a little bit more into a couple of those. Okay, so went to OU. Like, was your path growing up? Was it like, all right, I got to go to college, I got to get a job, kind of the typical American dream? And I'm throwing up air quotes for those that are just listening and not watching. But was that kind of the mindset? Did your parents kind of say, hey, look, you got to go to college? Did you want to? What was your early aspirations, you know, coming out of high school and looking towards college?
Oh my gosh, that's so well said. Because I did. I remember waking up one morning, and I'm a happy person, but I had this moment of like, why am I not excited to go to my job right now? Why am I not excited to go to brunch on Sunday and talk about Louis Vuitton? Like, why am I just like not excited about getting married and having kids at this time? And I went through all that path. And that morning I got on Google and I Googled top 10 things to do before you die. And Carnival and Rio de Janeiro popped up on like every list. And I thought, cool, I'm just going to shake things up. I'm going to go to Brazil. So that's kind of where I detoured. But absolutely, I mean, at that time I kept thinking, well, I'm going to do what I'm supposed to, go to university, get a really good job, work hard, get married, start a family, buy a house, do the whole thing. And it took a minute for me to realize that none of that was intuitive or things I was doing based on what I wanted. It was what I thought I should do for sure. For sure.
Okay. What were your goals as a kid? Like, what did you say at 7, 8, 9, 10? Said, I'm going to grow up one day, I'm going to be this? What was that for you?
I mean, I'm a little Plano girl. It was to be a cheerleader.
There you go. Now we're talking. Now we're talking dream. Cowboys cheerleader, I assume?
I mean, I was starting with high school, but yeah.
So that was the aspiration, as a high school varsity cheerleader. That was the pinnacle at that time.
Did you go to West Plano High School?
No, I went to the OG, Plano Senior High.
There you
Plano,
go.
Dang.
There you go.
Some gangsters out of there.
What is that? The maroon and white? Is that Plano High?
Is the what?
Is Plano High? Are y'all maroon and white? Is that the Plano High?
Yeah, maroon and white.
There
the
you
Wildcats.
go.
Rare.
The Wildcats.
The wild.
Boom. All
Very
right.
nice.
So you go to OU. What was college like for you?
College was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, college was a good time. OU was a great school. But even still, I think I was a little free-spirited for Oklahoma, to be honest. But I went to the business school. That was another thing where I went to the business school because I thought that it would be the best degree to do the best things in life, you know? Mm-hmm. That was a good degree to have, even though it wasn't my passion and I love psychology and that type of stuff. But didn't follow my heart, went with what I thought I should do, kind of that pattern.
Yeah. So we've got a mutual friend, Holly. Did you know her in high school? Because she went to Plano West, right? She didn't go to Plano High.
When did you went to a Christian private school?
Oh yeah, I forgot she's super rich.
I met her honestly because my high school sweetheart, we broke up and he started dating Holly.
Oh yeah.
And then we were at a party and he was doing what he does. And then her and I started talking. I was like, oh, and she said, I like you better than him. They broke up and we became roommates in college.
That's awesome.
So
that's how most best friend stories start, is like, you dated my ex. I feel like that's how most of them usually start, right?
Oh, totally.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. So she left the bum for you, made a smart decision, new best friend. You guys lived together at OU?
Yeah, we lived together for a year at OU. Yes.
All right. So then you graduate, you come back to Dallas, you start working at Ferguson, and then you're like, okay, I can't do this anymore. I've got to follow my heart. I gotta live the life that I feel like I was designed to live. So what was that decision? You mentioned that morning you woke up and you're like, what are the best things to do before I die? So to walk us through from that point on.
Yeah. Booked Carnival in Brazil, told all my friends, tried to get some friends to come, and nobody thought it was a good idea to go to Brazil. I'd never left North America before, but it felt like a good choice. I posted on Facebook, some guy friends from high school met me down there, and I met these backpackers from all over the world. And I'm sitting there on the beach with them. They're telling me about their stories of backpacking through South America for 6 months or they were just in Thailand. I was just like, wow, this is so foreign to me. That is so cool. And I was talking to this English guy, Dan, on the rooftop of this hotel. And I thought, God, I told him, I wish I could do that. And he said, well, why can't you? And it was such a magical question that I didn't think I could. And the minute he said, well, why can't you? I was like, technically I could quit my job, even though I worked really hard. Technically I could sell my truck and, buy a plane ticket. I guess technically I could, but I just can't. And then on the plane ride home, that was I'd had one of the best weeks of my life, and it was so eye-opening. And before you leave the United States, you think in some of these places, oh, they're dangerous. I'm going to get mugged, I'm going to get hurt. And all I did was meet the most loving, fun, cool, exciting people from all different cultures. And I just loved it. There's just such good people everywhere. And the flight home, I started crying and thought, oh my gosh, I need another taste of that. I can't just go home and wake up every day and keep going to the same job. Realistically speaking, am I going to stay at the same job with the same clients I have, with the same boss, with the same coworkers the rest of my life? No, probably there'll be changes. So even though I liked it, there'll be changes. And it felt more right to try this traveling thing. So I moved in with my parents to save money. And 4 months after I'd gotten back from Brazil, I went in my boss's office and said, hey, I'm quitting. I'm going to go travel around the world. I was lying. I thought I was going to go work for a competitor, but I was like, no, really.
No, really.
I'm going to go away from here.
What did your parents say about this? What was going on in their head when you were telling them about what you were trying to do?
Yeah, it's the worst. It's some of the worst words every mom wants to hear. My mom cried. I mean, this was 2012.
Yeah.
So y'all know what the economy was like in 2012, and I was making a very good living. My mom said, you know, there's people losing their jobs right now, and you have a good one, you're making good money, and you're just gonna quit and do what? Go travel? And she's like, what if you fall in love with somebody in Australia? You're never gonna come home. But yeah, she was very upset. We talked about it the other day, and my mom said that she used to tell people, oh, my daughter, she's traveling around the world, bought a one-way ticket, and everyone would say, oh my gosh, that's so cool. And she'd go, no, it's not cool.
No, don't encourage that.
You're her mother. You're not her mother.
You know, it's funny. So we've had a couple Australians and a couple New Zealanders on the show over the last couple of years. And one thing that the United States is totally missing on is that year of travel, right? That year of like going out and because that's like almost like it's culturally it's not required, but culturally that's what everybody does, right? They graduate from university or they graduate high school and then they go travel for a year, like all over the world just to understand like different cultures. And I mean, to me, I think that would have such a strong impact on our country. One, because okay, now we recognize what you talked about. Okay, we traveled. All we found was nice people. Like you learn to understand and respect other cultures. Maybe we could bring some of that back here and actually treat our, our, I don't know, what do you call
people?
People? Yeah, but what do you say? Like same country. Like what would our
neighbors?
There you go. Our neighbors, right? With the respect that the rest of the country does, like to tourists. I mean, think about, and you can tell us more, but this is because I've just heard it from other people because I've never gone, but like you go to Italy, right? And very easily you're just in a small little town and you get invited to come in, have dinner at somebody's house and then stay if you wanted to. Like imagine that happening in Dallas, Texas. Somebody that doesn't speak your language, they're like, oh, no, come on over. We'll cook you dinner, stay at that. No, that doesn't happen here. But I just, if I say youth, but like, that adolescent age, like imagine if we were forced to go and just travel, go on like a mission for a year and just figure out kind of who you are and learn from all these other cultures.
Yeah. No, the perspective would be different for sure. Yeah. I'm sitting here listening and how many years had you worked at Ferguson at this time from college to when you decided to leave?
Yeah, 6. So I was 28.
6 years. So you're 28. Okay. Yeah. So the thought that I had, life is so weird because, when you're a kid, the possibilities are endless, at least in your mind, right? There's so many different avenues I could pursue, so many goals that I have, so many dreams that I want. And then the funnel starts to narrow, right? As you get older and you get into college and then you get a job. All of a sudden you look up 6 years later and you're like, I'm 28. I haven't really pursued any passion of mine in life yet. And now I'm having this midlife crisis at 28 saying, what am I doing? I'm not living, that's for sure. I'm just kind of going through the motions. And so it sounds like you had that wake up moment at 28 of like, if I keep going down this path, I'm going to be 40 and never have really done anything that I wanted to do.
Yeah. And the fear of something is always worse than a thing. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So many people are like, oh, what if you travel? What if you move to Mexico? What if? But then like once you get there, everything just falls into place. It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's encouraging. You're exactly right. We just talked about this a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
How we always play it up in our head, the worst case scenario. We always go to the worst case scenario. And that protects us, right? That's helpful. It's a helpful thing. But to your point, how many times does it ever end up as bad as you played it up in your head?
When you actually do go out and take a risk, like it typically, I'm not saying
you figure it out.
It always does, but typically it will work out, right? Maybe challenges, maybe harder than you thought, but you learn something and it works out.
That's right.
So walk us through that travel journey. Like, okay, you came back, you told your boss, you said, I'm going to a competitor and competitor in Europe. But what was that travel schedule like for you? What did you decide? Did you say, hey, I'm just getting a one-way ticket to, you said Europe? Is that where you went?
Yeah, I started in Canada. It was, I don't know, it was wild. If I did it again, which maybe I will one day, I would do more of a slow travel. I was like, let's see the friggin' world.
Yeah.
Every 2 to 5 days, I was in a new city, flights, trains, whatever. So I would slow it down. But I started in Canada for Canada Day. And those people can drink. I'll tell you that. Wow.
Yes, they can. I lived up there for a year, and yes, it's a totally different culture. Well, when you're locked inside for 6 months of the year, you learn to drink.
Yeah. I sat down and he said, okay, we're going to do wine shots. I was like, okay. What's a wine shot? He said, you get a glass of wine, then you chug it. And I was like, wow.
A glass. A glass. Must be this metric system you guys use up here. That we usually do a 1 ounce glass.
Oh, they put me in a Canada shirt. It was really cute.
Yeah, that's June 1st, right? Canada is June 1st. I think it's June 1st, right? Canada Day is June 1st, right?
Yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Anyway, you're in Canada.
Canada Day, David. What day is it? All right. So you're in Canada. Did you start West Coast, work your way east? What was the thought process?
No, I was only there 2 days. It was just a layover on the way to Madrid. So I just went to Halifax and Toronto.
Okay. Nice. Very cool. All right. So
went to a wedding, spur of the moment. Just fun.
Nice. So Canada A to where from there?
Spain. And then I went all over most of Europe, had to come back for a wedding or wanted to come back for a wedding. Then I did Central America, South America, a little bit of the Caribbean. Then I flew from Brazil to South Africa. And then from there, I don't know, I bought a bus ticket that didn't work out. So I went to the airport, like you see in the movies. And I said, send me to Asia. Like the first flight, whatever's the cheapest way to get to Asia, just send me there. And they're like, man, you're going to have to buy that online. It's like, this is really killing this cool moment. But then I'm in the corner of the airport, just like on my phone. But anyways, went to Asia after that. And then,
what'd you decide in Asia? Where'd you start in Asia?
Australia. Huh?
Where'd you start in Asia?
The only places I went in Asia was Vietnam and Thailand.
Okay.
And Vietnam was one of my favorite. I think I went to about 30 countries, and Vietnam was one of my top 3.
Wow.
Awesome.
It was really, really incredible. I went to the War Museum in Saigon, and, I just wanted to see how people see the United States, or what the other viewpoint is. And I'll probably cry talking about it, and this was like 10 years ago. But, there was this big mural of this young guy, and, leaving the war, and he looks happy, and it says, he made it through the war. He goes home to his wife, gets to have that baby that he never thought he was going to have. And then his daughter's born without arms and legs because of the Agent Orange. I was like, it just killed me. But leaving the museum, they have this big thing that says, the United States is our friends. Everything's all good, basically. But I was really impressed by that museum. And the Vietnamese were so kind, and the country's so beautiful. It was really neat.
So what are you doing in all these countries? Are you just exploring and kind of wake up each morning and just figure it out? Like what's the point of each visit or where you're going or where you're going next?
Yeah, I just feel so alive every time I walk down a street I've never been on. So I think it's just that exploring and seeing what's going to happen and who you're going to meet or what you're going to run into and seeing the different cultures and the different beauties. But I stayed in mostly hostels, and it's not like the movie, they're like little bed and breakfasts, really. But, you just meet all these other people traveling by themselves from all over the world. And then you go to dinner, somebody's like, one day I was on my way to Chile. Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah. I was leaving Peru because I was so cold, and I was tired of being cold. Did Machu Picchu, did ayahuasca. I was like, get me out of here. I'm freezing. Went south, and I stayed on a bus until I got warm. So I was on a bus for like 20 hours. And then I met this guy from New Zealand. He said, I'm going north to Bolivia to see the salt flats. And I was like, I just came from north. I can't go back. But he was really cool. So I went back north to Bolivia and saw the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in the whole world. The salt flats, the whole sky reflects off of the ground. And it feels like and looks like you're walking in heaven. So it was really, really neat. But I don't know, you just kind of roll with the punches and see who you meet and go where you go.
You mentioned earlier that like everybody thinks you go to some of these countries, and especially areas in South America, Central America. It doesn't sound like you did much Middle East, but even some places it can be very dangerous. So was there any times where you're like, okay, this is a little suspect? Like Bolivia, for example, historically there's been some areas there that have just been very, very dangerous.
Funny you mentioned Bolivia, because that was the very first thing that came to mind. It was the only time I actually really got scared. And I mean, I went a ton of places.
Yeah.
But I was responsible about it, you know, ish. I was 28. But I get to the border of Bolivia and Argentina, and I stand in line forever, and it was so hot, and my backpack was so heavy. Stood in line for hours to walk across the border to Argentina, and I had researched you don't need a visa. I get there, they don't know any English. I know no Spanish. And basically, we figured out through my Google Translator on my phone, they just changed the laws 2 weeks prior, you need a visa. Like, okay, well, where would I get one of those? And I was walking all over town looking for an internet cafe. And every time I walked in one, they started yelling at me, like, ah. I said, oh my gosh. And after the third one, finally, somebody that knew English said, internet down whole city. I was like, okay, got it. Comprende. And anyways, I'm back and forth with this bus at this bus place. And eventually there's no more buses and I have to stay the night at the border town of Bolivia. Every building, everything has bars on the windows. It started raining. I'm still trying to find a place to sleep. And I was scared because it was nighttime, it was raining. I was by myself in a border town of Bolivia. No one spoke English. And I'm walking around trying to find this hotel. And it was really sweet. This guy that knows no English pops out from this building. Not scary.
I was like, not a good start to the story.
He brings me to safety and gets me a glass of water and just sits with me while I'm like bawling. So it was really like this special kind of moment. But after I collected myself, I did find a hotel and oh my gosh. And I took a shower and the shower is over the toilet. So you pretty much have to like sit on the toilet to shower. And the TV didn't work. And I just called my mom. I bought a bottle of wine, a bottle of wine and called my mom. Yeah, that day was scary.
Yeah, I was going to ask how much contact you had with your parents throughout all these travels.
You know, if I did it again, I would contact them more because I love my parents. And I was very like out of sight, out of mind. And they're wonderful, amazing people. But I don't know, I would like post on Facebook, Mom, Dad, I'm still alive. I'm going to Nicaragua tomorrow. My mom tells me to this day, she's glad I had social media or she would have like had a heart attack.
Oh man.
So money wise, I assume you're living off of what you had made at Ferguson all those years. You're just basically just dipping into savings and just going from there. Did you ever work anywhere? Were you ever anywhere long enough where you could find work, or was it more just 100% travel and fun?
Yeah. No, I had savings from working.
Yeah.
And just did it off of that. But you know, the idea of traveling, people think of it as really expensive because you're buying, you know, round trip flights to somewhere pretty far. And you're staying in a resort a lot of the time. But when you're doing like short one-way flights or buses or trains, and you're staying in these little like bed and breakfasts or hostels that are really affordable, then it's really not as expensive as people think. I spent $40,000 US in that year I was gone from the United States a whole year, 30 countries, doing anything I wanted. I mean, I didn't skip out on any tours, nothing.
And you only spent 40,000?
Yeah, that's what I mean. It sounds like it would be more expensive than it actually is when you're just traveling that way.
Yeah, absolutely it does.
So you know what I'm doing in 23.
Yeah.
Sorry, Tiff. Sorry, kiddos. See y'all in a year.
Yeah, I mean, my inner adventurer is like loving the story, absolutely loving it. But my logical brain is saying,
anxiety.
this
is giving you anxiety.
I'm like sweating over here. Like, how in the world could you dip into your savings, leave everything you know, travel over the world? Like, it's very conflicting in my mind what's going on right now. Was it conflicting at all for you, or were you all in like, no, this is amazing?
Only at first.
Yeah.
Like whenever I was talking to that dude and said, oh, I wish I could do that. I mean, I had all those thoughts. I was like, what about my friends? What about my family? Like, I can't have a gap year as a Texan. Like, people are going to look at my resume and be like, you did what? You went to a salt flat in Bolivia? But the thing is, things really do just work out when you trust your intuition and trust in people and trust in yourself. Like things will just work out. They'll fall into place.
That's a great message.
I love it. So let's go towards like the end of your trip. And I mean, it sounds like you didn't say, hey, it's a year to the day. Like you kind of were just going with it. Like at what point were you like, okay, it's time to go back?
Yeah, because I came back home for that wedding and I bumped into someone I used to work with. He was a vendor.
Yeah.
And he said, so you're not working right now? And I was like, nope, and I don't want to. And he said, well, what if I held a position for you for 6 months and gave it to you when you got back? Would you be open to that? And I said, yeah. So I did have an end date because I liked the company and the person. I did have a job to come back home to, but they gave me that 6 months to keep traveling so that, that was the only way I was going to say yes.
Yeah. Were you ready to come back, or could you have done it for longer?
I could have definitely done it forever. Yeah. I was not ready to get back. And then that job, something happened. Actually, to be honest, his wife told him he was gonna have to quit if I started. Because I was a young girl. Yeah. Anyways, so the job didn't even work out, and I was pretty upset. I was like, man, I flew home from Australia to start this. But it was okay. I found a different job right away, and that one was better. And I was there for 6 years until I got paralyzed.
So you travel for an entire year, 30 countries in 1 year. You come back, you start a job. My question is, what was the transition back like? Because Tyler mentions he's traveled. I actually lived in another country. Tyler lived in another country. I lived in another country as well for the first 5 years of my life. Have plenty of friends that lived overseas. Coming back to the States is different. Your perspective has totally changed. The people you interacted with for that year for you, totally different than anything you have here. What was that transition like back to the quote unquote comforts of the States?
It was amazing. Really. I felt so free.
Yeah.
When I left the United States to go do that, anything that would have felt, I guess, hard to transition back into, I had already separated from. And when I came back, I chose not to reattach to some of those things or people or places or whatever. And just, I knew the kind of people that I felt the most alive and happy and impacted by. So I just found those people because I met so many of them traveling. I love all of my friends I had before I left. But that transition back, I found people and places and activities and things that felt natural after traveling. Yeah. That I could engage with
So it allowed you to just cut all the fat, cut out all the unnecessary, this is what's important to me and this is what I'm going to go forward with.
Yeah. It's really a heavy weight to carry anytime you live each day with what you should do.
Yeah.
It's really heavy.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. Well, and you mentioned perspective, right? It's just like when you go places where, like you said, you're just trying to find a place to put a roof over your head. You're literally just trying to, okay, where's my next meal going to be? And then you're living alongside cultures that, are grateful to have, scraps from a restaurant or just to eat, right? And they're super grateful. And you just see the perspective that they have for life, right? And how much they do love life too with so little. And then you come back here and, oh my gosh, the contractor, he brought the wrong marble slab for my countertops. Like, this is the work. You know what I mean? It's just different, right? You just you don't sweat the small stuff after probably an experience like that. I mean, is that how it was with you?
Yeah. It's interesting because I never really sweated the small stuff and felt shame about it. I felt shame.
Interesting.
And when I went traveling, because I am just such a no shoes, wrinkly dress person, and I always have been, but I felt so much shame about it. I should care about this. I should care about that. I should care about all this stuff and be this way and be perfect. I should look perfect, act perfect. And then when I went traveling, I accepted that I was that way and that was okay. Huh. Yeah. So when I got back, it was I still didn't sweat the small stuff as much, but I didn't feel shame about it. I was like, well, it's not for me. You can sweat it. It's not mine.
What a relief.
Gosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you say that's the biggest lesson that you took away from that year of traveling? What were some of the big lessons that you took away?
Yeah, more or less. That really was the main thing because when I left, I didn't always feel really accepted and everything in Dallas, Texas, or at OU, just, because the whole free spirit thing. And I thought, okay, I'm going to go travel and I'm going to be this vegan Buddhist tango dancer. And everyone's going to be like, wow, that's so cool. And then by the end of the trip, I thought, this traveling, it didn't really change me, but it brought to light who I am. And brought to light that I'm okay with who I am.
Oh man.
Like when people call me crazy or wild, like I don't care. Like that's my favorite thing about myself. That's that part of me that got me out with a shaman in the middle of the Sacred Valley of Peru. Like that free spirited, crazy part of me. And I love that. Like I feel alive in that space. So it's okay.
Yeah.
Man, that's awesome.
That's really cool.
All right. So you get home, you work for this company. You said you moved to Vegas for a period of that time of the 6 years.
Yeah. It started at that other job, which I covered the Southwest. So Hawaii, California, Nevada, Arizona, and I traveled. So that's when I say I found ways to still express what I learned traveling to still be able to kind of continue doing it. But anyways, I started that job and then I went on a cruise, met a guy, he lived in Vegas, and I ended up moving to Vegas for him a couple years after, or actually it was just a year after I got back, and then lived in Vegas for 3.5 years. And that's where I was when I stopped walking.
So, yes. So, we didn't preface in the beginning of this episode, everything leading up to this, honestly, has just been ad-libbed. I didn't realize that you had traveled that much, but I think that's an important perspective and I'm really glad that you shared that. But Courtney's journey took a very difficult turn, but again, the story after is what's incredible and what she's doing now. But so talk us through that that time, that really, really hard time.
Yeah. And y'all are so fun to talk to. I've been on a lot of people's podcasts and never get to talk about traveling or anything like that before. It's always, tell us about being paralyzed. So thanks for.
We're super, like I said, Ben's super rigid. Like I'm looking at the outline right here and it's like, don't deviate, don't deviate, don't deviate, don't deviate. And that's all we've done. I'm just kidding.
That outline we put I'm fascinated. Like Tyler said, we could do this for 6 hours. We aren't even close to scratching the surface of 30 countries in a year.
There's an hour we could talk about Bolivia. There's an hour we could talk about Chile. There's an hour we could talk about Southeast Asia. I mean, but let's, for our listeners' sake, because they're probably getting to their destination here pretty quickly. But So talk us through that really, really difficult time. All right, I want to take a quick minute to talk about our partner, Choctaw Casino and Resort. We are really, really humbled and grateful to be a partner for them. If you've listened to the show for any amount of time, you've heard how great the resort is there, how great the casino is, the new expansion. They've doubled in size, 3,000 new slots. They've got unbelievable sports bar. They've got unbelievable restaurants, unbelievable movie theaters, arcades for kids. It is endless, the things that they've not only improved but added. But it's just the experience that they provide is second to none. Choctaw Nation has done an incredible job with the community, with philanthropy, with support. They have just done incredible things. So we are extremely humbled and grateful to partner with Choctaw Casino and Resort. Make sure, I know you know it, it's just a short drive up 75. Go check them out. And now back to the episode.
Yeah, I always thought traveling around the world was going to be my big story, We all have that crazy thing that happened or that thing we achieved that we're just like, that's one of my defining moments of my identity and my life. And I always thought that'd be it. And I'm living in Vegas. I'm so in love. I mean, it was the love of my life. And Vegas is okay. It's always sunny. It wasn't my first choice, but I had a good time. I met this amazing group of friends, having so much fun. I liked my job a lot, got to still travel. And I was really, really happy. And I always thought if you're happy, I was meditating every day, green smoothies, the whole thing. I always thought, if you're taking care of yourself and you're happy, then you'll be healthy. So when I started getting numbness in my finger, numbness in my ankle, at first I just thought, okay, well, I'm dehydrated. I need some B vitamins. This is really weird. But then there was one night I was wearing high heels and my ankle started rolling and I couldn't walk on high heels anymore. And I was like, okay, something is really weird happening to my body right now and I don't understand it. So I went and got acupuncture. Oh my gosh. And that didn't help. And I didn't even understand that weakness has anything to do with your nerves. That's how detached I was from, neurology and
Right.
autoimmune or whatever. But I went to the doctor, they referred me to a neurologist, and I just kept getting weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker until my arms were completely paralyzed, just dangling from my side. And I was falling a lot. My leg, when someone kicks you from the back of the knee, it's like my favorite thing to do to my sister.
No, I go knee to the back of the knee. It's like, and I'll walk up, like if my wife's standing there talking, I'll literally just do it and just buckle her. Sorry, it's terrible.
I love that. I love that joke. But that would just happen to me standing. It would be like somebody kicked out my knees from underneath me and they would buckle down. And all this went on for six months without a diagnosis, without treatment, without anything.
So your arms are paralyzed for 6 months and nobody can figure out what's going on?
Just progressively getting worse over those 6 months.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Progressively getting worse over 6 months. It took about 6 months until my arms were totally paralyzed.
Wow.
And my arms, I still have disability. Like I never fully recovered, but my hands got it worse than anything. I still can't type on a computer or write. But anyways, that's really jumping ahead. So it took 6 months to get a diagnosis. And at that time I had paralyzed arms flopping around. And my diagnosis is CIDP, which stands for chronic inflammatory demyelinating polyneuropathy. My neurologist said that, I got whiplash.
What? Are you speaking Spanish now?
Yeah. It's like 180 syllables. It just came out. But
so walk us through what that is. I mean, what does that technically mean? And we want the scientific approach. I don't want layman's terms. I want really, really technical if we can.
Yeah, no problem. Well, it's autoimmune of the peripheral nerves. Most people have heard of multiple sclerosis. That's autoimmune of your central nervous system, which is your brain and spine. Mm-hmm. Your peripheral nerves are like everywhere else, your face, organs, arms, legs. And so my immune system was attacking those, which is why I was flopping around.
Wow. And do they know why? Is it genetic? Is it random? Is it?
Autoimmune is such a journey. It's not genetic. And that's the first thing is you want to find out why. Mm-hmm. I mean, of course, anybody, when you start losing capabilities, you start losing your health, start losing your marriage, whatever, you're like, why is this happening? But it's such a puzzle and it's really hard to figure out what causes autoimmune. For me, I've pretty much figured it out, but it took me years to kind of get there. And it's just different for everybody, but it's usually almost always, I would say 90% of the time, it's stress related. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Crazy. I didn't expect you to go there, to be honest with you. So you get the diagnosis and then what? Is there a treatment plan? Because obviously you went from a point and it for those of you that have not seen or heard of Courtney's story, I would highly, highly suggest you go follow her on Instagram. You do a really good job of kind of highlighting your story. But I mean, you went to a point where you were in a wheelchair, not walking, again, can't use your arms. I think when we met, you were in a wheelchair at 60 Vines, and I think you were moving your arms at that point, if I remember correct. I think you were.
Yeah, I was getting torn up that day because it was my first day out of the nursing home.
That's right.
And I was like, let's get a bottle.
That's right. That is right.
I couldn't pick up a wine glass. Somebody had to feed me it or get me a straw, but it was happening. I could only leave the nursing home for 3 hours.
That is right.
Yeah, but no, when I met you, I was paralyzed from the neck down. Mm-hmm. And I got diagnosed from the Mayo Clinic, but I was still walking just barely, but I was. And I thought, okay, cool. I've hit rock bottom. And I was trying everything to get better. I mean, I did all the anti-inflammatory diets, Dr. Joe Dispenza meditations, 3 hours a day. I was doing, ozone, infrared, whatever. I was doing all of it, stem cells. And none of it was working. And I thought, okay, well, at least I have a diagnosis and I can start treatment, the Western medicine stuff. So they started me on medication and then it didn't work. And I got worse and worse and worse. And once I couldn't walk anymore, I remember the last time I took a step. I was walking from the bathroom to my bed.
Wow.
And I took a step and I fell again. And I almost hit my head and busted it on the corner of the bathtub. Like it's one of those corners, not round. Mm-hmm. And actually my ex-boyfriend's ex-wife was with me at the time. And she ran and got her boyfriend. They picked me up off the floor, put me in bed. And I was like, okay, it's too dangerous for me to keep trying to walk. Like that's my last step. And I didn't walk again for 9 months.
Oh my gosh.
But I kept getting worse and worse. And after that last step I took, I was admitted into a skilled nursing facility or nursing home so I could have full-time care. And I remember moving my fingers for the last time. I remember moving my ankle for the last time. I just would wiggle until it stopped. And I knew it was going paralyzed. It was an interesting experience. But I reached out to the doctor and said, hey, I'm still getting worse. I'm not walking now. I can't even wiggle anything anymore. Well, like this isn't working. This treatment's not working. They said, give it time. They said, give it at least 3 months. And in that 3 months, that's when I got a lot of my permanent disability.
Oh, because you waited the 3 months.
Yeah, I advocated for myself, but not enough. Yeah.
So, but how are you supposed to, I mean, we're conditioned to trust these doctors, right? Because they're the smartest people out there and they've gone to school for this and they're the experts, right? I mean, you laugh because I'm laughing on the inside too, because it's like some of these doctors that like I've come across, I'm not going to use the words, but like definitely not the smartest people that I've come across for sure. They're just people, right? They're flawed. They have egos. They have all these things that everybody deals with. But how are you supposed to know at that point that like, okay, these guys have no idea what they're talking about. Like they're just following a protocol with whatever their medical rep says that they need to do and whatever the hospital says I can do. So how are you supposed to know the difference there?
Oh my gosh, you nailed it. Because I found out later that insurance doesn't let you apply for a different treatment until it's been 3 months. They won't approve it. You have to give every treatment 3 months to work. So I learned later that the doctor had their hands tied. But you can also reach out to the insurance company. You can try to fight it, try to get something different. But it's interesting because eventually when I did start getting better, it wasn't medication that was the reason.
Mm-hmm. See, just a quick like, hey, your insurance is not going to pay for this, but I would advise you to give them a call and just fight it. Very simple.
Thank you.
Very simple. In passing, you don't have to put it in writing. You don't have to record it. You don't have to just say, hey, here's a suggestion. Call your insurance company. Tell them to try something else. Yeah. So, okay. So what was that? What ended up? Okay. So 3 months, and unfortunately, terribly, some permanent disabilities have stuck because of that.
Yeah.
But what was the upside of the curve for you? When did that start?
So there I was, paralyzed from the neck down in the hospital. And I'd been there 14 days. This was my second time to be in the hospital. They tried every medication that was available because once you're in the hospital, they can try different treatments, just not as an outpatient. So they tried everything, but I was so resistant to medication that they were testing me for colon cancer. They checked me for lung cancer. They were checking me for all this stuff because it didn't make sense that I wasn't getting better. And I was there for 14 days, paralyzed from the neck down. I had lost my voice for the most part. My lungs were going paralyzed. So if they continued to go paralyzed, I would need to be on a trach. My colon was weak, which was a good time. And the doctors came in and said, I don't know what to tell you. There's nothing else that we can do. We've done everything. We've tried everything. And these are really, really good doctors. It was UT Southwestern.
Yeah.
Really amazing. I cannot recommend them enough. But, at that point, they couldn't justify to insurance to keep me there anymore because I wasn't improving. They tried everything and tested me for everything. They can't just let me lay in the hospital paying on, anyways. So my parents came and got my stuff to take me home from the hospital. And I thought to myself, why am I not getting better? I've tried every holistic thing I can get my hands on. I had spent a lot of money. I had done everything the Western medicine had available. I was meditating. I was having a good attitude. I was just like, I had good support, good family. I got rid of all my stressors. I was just like, why am I at 33 years old not getting better? What is it? And I thought about all the things in my life that could possibly be causing stress, because when you're in stress, you're in the stress response. And when you're in the stress response, it causes inflammation to the body.
Yeah.
Right.
So that you can fight and flight, right? And I thought, what's causing me stress? And my boyfriend at the time, the guy I moved to Vegas for, he was the love of my life. I mean, we had been together 4 years, but he was one of those, needed drugs, needed more girls, needed not working at the time. He's not like that anymore. And I thought, okay, well, is it possible, even as much as I love this guy, that he's making me sick? So I called him and broke up with him, and I was like, I don't know what else to do. Like, your situation is causing me stress, and I'm really trying to namaste over here. I'm trying to kumbaya, and this is not in alignment with that. So I don't know what else to do. Like, I'm out of options here. Like, my lungs are going paralyzed. And he understood. And then I started getting better 2 days later. And I've only gotten better ever since. I've never had a setback, no nothing.
No way.
What was he like?
Really wild.
What was he like the process from the numbness of the fingers all the way to the hospital bed, paralyzed neck down? Like, was he there? Now, you obviously were here in Dallas, right? At this point.
At that point I was.
Yeah.
I had been back in Texas for a couple weeks.
Okay.
Because the nursing home I was in up by Vegas, they wouldn't keep me there. I got kicked out by insurance because I was getting worse. So that was when my parents came and got me and brought me back to Texas. And then I went into the hospital at UT Southwestern.
Okay.
But no, that's a really, really hard position to be in, the position he was in, because it's easy for us to all say, if my wife, if my husband, if my partner got sick, like, I would be amazing. I would be perfect. Mm-hmm. But it's like, once you're there, it's really hard because all of your needs, your pain points, your emotions, your schedule, your everything comes second. Like, it's not as important. And then I know he took on the burden of like, I need to fix her, I need to heal her. And then everything we were trying wasn't working and he felt like failure. So it's just a really hard position to be in. But he did fault to a lot of the times, trying to paint a picture of that maybe I was overreacting, maybe I was making this a bigger deal than it needs to be, because it was easier from him, and him and I have talked about this, it was easier from his viewpoint to downplay my situation and make what I was saying untrue and making what's happening to me like I'm being dramatic, than to admit, oh my gosh, our life is changing and this is really serious. And, my girlfriend's really sick. Yeah. So once he did realize that, then he was awesome for a little bit. Yeah. He was awesome. And then he got burnt out after 2 months. Yeah.
So who was your main caregiver day to day? Who was bathing you and feeding you, and who was with you by your side that whole time?
Like, so many different people.
Yeah.
I'm really, really lucky. Yeah. Holly was one. I think Holly dropped me off the toilet, if I remember correctly.
I feel like I've heard that story. Yeah.
I had a lot of friends that helped, a lot of strangers. I started posting on Facebook my journey, and it grew a following. I have probably over 50 million views on those videos. So there was even people that followed my story.
Do you see how she just breezed by that humbly? Just whatever. I mean, it's a couple people there to support me for sure. Just 50 million people just watch me. Sorry.
Well,
the one shot. We're getting 13. We're getting 13 views per video.
People were following my story, and then they would come to my house and take care of me. People I didn't know just offered so that my parents could have a break. I mean, it was wild. It was really cool. But my best friend helped a lot, as she was always moving me around. She would always put makeup on me and do my hair so that I would, feel a little cuter when I was in the hospital and stuff. There was so many, but once I got to Texas, it was mainly my dad, because he was strong enough. Mm-hmm. I don't know if y'all have picked up a drunk girl before, like a drunk passed out girl.
All the time.
He did it last night. That's what it was like to pick me up, except for I'm like looking at you.
Yeah,
my body was just completely heavy, and my dad was strong enough to move me around.
In a lot of ways, you experienced the best of humanity. You had so many people in your corner, so many people helping you out. So in a lot of ways, there was as devastating as it was for you personally, there was a lot of good, I'm sure, that you can look back on that came out of that. But in your darkest moments, when you were by yourself in your own head, what were you thinking? Like what was going on in your head? Did you have this positive outlook? Was it devastation? I'm just very curious what in the depths of your mind, what was going on during this time?
That's deep. In the
I was
depths
just
of
saying
my
that.
mind.
Gosh.
Yeah, Tyler, just sit back. We're going to have a one-on-one here.
Yeah, no, I know just the story to share. I was in my wheelchair. It was after I'd gotten out of the hospital, and I kind of just started getting better. I remember I could like lift one of my shoulders, and I'm sitting in the wheelchair, 33 years old, after traveling the world, living in Vegas, you know, all that stuff. And I'm just sitting there at my parents' house and thought, this could be really sad. This could be really sad. I've lost my job. I've lost my home. You know, when I left my house, I left things by the sink on my side for when I got home, and I never came home. I never saw that condo again. I went straight to the hospital. I lost my love of my life. I moved across the country from my main circle of friends. Couldn't wipe myself, couldn't change my own tampons. Like, I thought this could be really sad. Mm-hmm. But what made me more sad when I thought of that was this conversation I had with my mom. And I asked her, what was your favorite time of life? Your favorite age? She said, my 30s. I loved my 30s. It's the best age. And here I am at 33. I thought what makes me more sad is spending my 30s or the next few years or however amount of time wishing they were over, wishing I could just get through them so that then I could be happy once I can walk again, once I feel okay or sexy in my body again, because I know I've heard you guys talk on one of your podcasts about exercising, working out for the way you look versus the way you feel. When you're paralyzed, you have no control over how you feel or how you look when it comes to exercise. You can't move.
Right.
And so I'm coping with a lot of these changes in my body and my image and so on. But I thought, okay, well, my 30s makes me sad to waste those and not love them and not be happy. So I don't want to lose time too. So I thought, okay, how can I love these years just as much as the years before and just as much after? Like, where's the opportunity here to love my life right now? So I started wearing costumes, and that was hilarious. Like, I would I would roll into some of these physical therapy gyms. And like, I remember this one guy's like 75 years old on the bike, and he looks up, and he's like, huh? And I was like, how fun that I can make this 75-year-old man recovering from a stroke giggle and chuckle like that. And it would make me laugh. And then everywhere I rolled around in the nursing home, anyone who saw I had these crazy like spiral hearts on my head, they would laugh, and it made me laugh. So it was like instantly I changed my environment. And then there's such a power. There's a power in tragedy. There's a power when you get handed a challenge like that. And that power is like when you're in the energy field or when you're in the space of somebody else and you can show like, I'm happy, even in a wheelchair, paralyzed from the neck down. You give that person the space and permission to be happy with themselves too. Yes. To find their own strength in them too. And that is powerful. It's a powerful position to be in. I've noticed I don't have that power as much anymore now that I can walk. I'm like, man, it was easier when I was in a wheelchair. But then I show them my hands and they're like, oh, and I'm like, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there are other things, like even as I was walking again, I just constantly did that evaluation. I asked that question of how can I make this easy and fun? How can I make this awesome? Physical therapy, I'm so over the yellow walls and the smell, and I love the therapist, amazing. But I always looked around, I'm like, I don't belong here. I don't belong in a nursing home with everybody that's twice my age. So I decided to go to Mexico, and I lived in an ashram for a month and did hatha yoga. It was just slow enough I could do it to work on my balance. And I decided, okay, when I can walk strong enough, I'm gonna go hike the Camino de Santiago across northern Spain, which is a 500-mile hike. And it's something I'd always wanted to do, but I never could do it before because I had a whole life. I had a boyfriend and friends and baby showers and a job with a 1-week vacation a year. And I never was able to do that. And that was something really special about my life's changed. So my opportunities have changed. Doors have closed, doors have opened. And now I can go hike across Spain. And that was something really cool to work towards when it came to rehabbing my body.
Wow.
Gosh. So,
we're just going to screw up everything.
I know. From here on out, like, yeah.
I'm like jacked up. I'm ready to go now.
I know.
I'm ready to go run through a brick wall.
Courtney, what I love though, and I hope everybody hears, is there's always a choice.
Yes.
Right? You may not have the choice on your autoimmune disease. You may not have a choice on external factors, but what you made a decision and you made a choice is I'm gonna bring joy wherever I'm at, wherever I'm doing therapy, wherever I'm around friends, wherever I'm going to bring, because it sounds like that moment, I'm not gonna look beyond this time, like just get through this. Like I'm gonna enjoy every moment. And that's a choice. I feel like so often in our culture right now, everything is somebody else's fault and I didn't have a choice and it's not my fault and it's not this, it's everybody else, it's this. When you of all people had the opportunity to say that, look, this isn't my fault. I didn't choose to have this condition come over my entire body, nearly shutting down all of my organs. But regardless, I'm going to dress up and I'm going to make other people laugh because I want to make their day better. Like you have a choice every day. And I hope people hear that. I hope people choose to say, like, I'm not going to succumb to whatever external circumstances that I can't control, but what I do with them is 100% on me. Because again, the people that you, Courtney, have inspired, the people that you have put a smile on their face. I mean, the people that you knew your entire life. I mean, just conversations with them about you is that, like, you can't not smile when you're around her. You can't not soak up the energy that she has. And again, you were in a wheelchair, couldn't even hold a wine glass. But I remember the one time that we actually physically met is like left and I look at my wife and Holly and there was another person there at that time, and literally was like, we're getting a bottle of wine. Let's go. Like, let's get this. Like, we can't not have a good time tonight. And, it's just, you put it perfectly. Like the energy, there's a power in tragedy. And if you can go through that, and I look at people that have gone through the ultimate tragedy, whether it be, losing a child or going through having an accident, a medical condition that takes everything away from you. When you can have that positive outlook, like that is the ultimate strength. I don't care who you are, like that is the strongest thing that you can do. And honestly, like, thank you for making that choice. Thank you for making the choice to just be a light in an otherwise pretty dark world.
Thank you. That's a very nice thing to say.
Right.
So I want to hear more about this 500-mile trek. So when you set this goal in your mind.
Well, hold on. Let's go back. The rehab part, because we got to get to the walking part. Like I want to.
Well, that's what I was. When you set that goal, where were you mobility wise? Were you, or maybe we are fast forwarding?
I was not walking yet.
Okay.
I was in the hospital and had that moment of like, okay, everything. I've lost everything. Like everything about my life was different. Even when I moved home with my family, who are incredible, amazing. I wish everyone had parents like mine and a sister like mine. But even that was a change. Because when I left to go travel around the world, I was like, see ya. Yeah. I'm going to go YOLO over here. And I never called. I barely came home. So it was a really good change.
Yeah.
Really good thing. I got to reconnect with my family. Like that's the best thing about this whole thing. Yeah. Is that it got me back home. My dad always says that and he usually cries. He's like, this got you back home to us, baby. I'm like, I know that.
Something about dads and daughters. I get it. You will someday when you have, your third and fourth and fifth. All three will be daughters.
Easy.
All three will be daughters.
So anyway, go
ahead. Sorry, I do that a lot. I apologize. I just cut people off.
We're hanging out. That's
tangents. Okay, so you make this decision before you're walking. Things are,
I
you're
just
back
thought,
with your
God,
family.
everything about my life has changed. And it's a really powerful question to ask yourself. And I had mentioned it earlier, but that moment of, okay, my life has changed and it's a change I didn't want. You know, I'm pushed into this. Like maybe when you retire from being an athlete, like, I don't know, just certain moments where you're like, okay, like this change is happening, whether I want it to change or not. And to ask yourself, because this change is happening, what opportunities are available to me now that wouldn't have been before, that I'll love? So often I feel like when people's lives change, they try to get back there, get back to who they were, what they were feeling, who they were with. And you're trying to get back there. You're trying to recreate who you were. You know, especially when they get illness, like, oh, I'm going to get better from this illness and then I can go back to my life, but I'll be smarter and wiser. But you're like, if you're smarter and wiser, you're not going to go backwards.
You're going to go backwards.
No, it sounds obvious when you say that, but you're totally right.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking about my own life changes, and you're exactly right. What I was trying to do was go back and trying to recreate. So you're exactly right. But I don't know the way you say it. Now I'm a moron and I'm an idiot.
Thank you for finally getting that through to him. That makes me
It's a
smile.
natural reaction. We always do it because that's been our learned experience. It's so much easier to associate the emotions we want to feel to when we felt them before.
Right.
Instead of like, oh, well, I can create new opportunities and new ways to feel that way because it's unknown and you don't have that proof yet.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're like, I'm going to create these goals. And that's one of the opportunities that I think is in front of me. And that's what I'm going to work towards.
Yeah. It was okay. I like now that I don't have all these strings attached, I can do things that people do when they have no strings attached.
Yeah.
Cool. What does that look like? And also when you go through a major change, it's super fun and healthy and amazing to think back to old dreams. Like, what were my dreams before when I was younger? What were my dreams before I got married, before I started that job, before I got paralyzed? Like, what were those dreams? And can I achieve any of them now that I'm in a different position? Because I couldn't have done it then. So it's really powerful, like self-evaluation. And yeah, I thought, okay, well, it takes 35 days to hike across Spain. You start at the border of France and then you walk to the ocean. And I never had time to do that before. And having like a vision or a big why, you know, knowing your why of where you're headed and what you want to accomplish is so motivating.
Yes.
And that was a good why for me. Like, okay, this will be my happy ending. I'm going to focus on my health. I'm going to give myself permission to only care about healing and getting better physically, because what the investment I put into that now is going to mirror my quality of life the rest of my life. So I've got to just give myself permission to not be a good friend right now, to miss birthdays, to not focus on my career. I need to give everything I have to this. And then I can do that other stuff later. That's such a hard thing for people to do sometimes because they think, oh, I can't be a bad friend or I can't do that. And it's like, well, you're not that. It's just a right now thing. It's temporary. Like things are temporary and that's okay. And yeah, so I focused on that. And then I thought once I hike across Spain, it's going to be amazing. And then I can be re-released out into the wild. And that'll be my big finale.
So, I mean, walk us through that process then. Like, okay, I made that goal. I have this to work on. I'm focusing on myself. I don't have to be all things to all people. So maybe quickly tap on like, okay, what's that rehab process? Like, I mean, I'm sure ups and downs, right? Some days are good days. Some days are bad days. But like, take us to that day when you walk on your own for the first time. You're like, I'm doing this and I'm going to be hiking in Spain in no time.
Oh my gosh, it was so funny because, you know, you just walk like a toddler.
Yeah.
I didn't realize once I started walking again, my balance was going to be so bad because I never had bad balance before.
Yeah.
And then I started walking and I don't have good ankle strength at all, even still. So my balance was horrible. Whoa. Wasn't expecting that. So you're walking around, you know how toddlers put their arms up when they're walking?
Yep.
Yeah.
So like I still do that when I walk up and downstairs. I'm like,
Right.
but I don't know, it was so frustrating. It was really, really frustrating, the whole thing, every moment, basically. But on the day I walked again, you know, you're thinking about when you really want something, you start focusing on all the little things you need to do to make it happen. Mm-hmm. And it becomes complicated when you're trying to look at that many things at one time. And that's what I was doing. I was like, I need to swing my arms. I need to make sure I lift my foot. I need to shift my weight. I need to keep my chin up. I need to tuck my butt, all this stuff that they were teaching me. And then I just was like so awkward. And then I'm sitting there, I took a deep breath and I said to myself, just walk. And what I meant by that is don't keep thinking about all these little things. Don't keep thinking about all the stuff that needs to be done to make this happen. Like your body knows what to do. You've done this your whole life until recently. Like just let your body just go and get out of your head. So I got out of my head and I started walking. It was crazy. Also, I walked around the whole room. It wasn't even like
that.
To make 2 steps, to walk around the whole room.
Goodness.
It was wild. But it was like when I just said, just walk, and I just let things happen. Like I just let my body do it. It did it when I got my brain and like ego and thoughts out of the way.
Wow.
But it was cool. It was awesome. It wasn't, everyone says like, oh, what was it like to walk again? Try walking if you can't stand up. Because standing up is harder than walking. And I still couldn't stand up. So I still, was stuck in chairs, stuck on toilets. Like you can't go anywhere unless you can stand up, and standing up is way harder.
Yeah.
If you talk to anybody who went a period of time not walking, I guarantee everyone will say that it was the standing up part that was more emotional. And yeah, that happened pretty shortly after that. But the standing up was a big one. It was a big deal. And when I finally stood up, the walking was fun, but when I finally stood up, I started crying, not because I was happy, but because it was still so hard.
Yeah.
And I was exhausted.
Wow.
And I was so sick of trying to stand up for months and months and months I'd been trying. And it finally happened, but it was still so hard. And a lot of those suppressed emotions I had, like, don't be upset, don't be sad, don't be mad, don't be hurt, don't be embarrassed. They started to come out as soon as I stood up because I didn't have to suppress them anymore. I could feel them then because I could stand up now. So they just kind of like all came out.
Yeah. That's when the hard work started. Now it's like, all right, now I'm standing up. Now, gosh. So you stand up, and how, from the point where you were unable to walk, that time you went from the bathroom to your room, to, okay, I can stand up, I can get up myself, and I can walk and get myself to places. So what was it? How long was that period?
Like 9 months.
Golly.
But my arms were longer. I couldn't use my hands for over a year. So I couldn't wipe myself, dress myself, pull my pants down, all that stuff. I could feed myself, but it's because they put this tool on my hand with the fork.
Yeah.
So my hand, I didn't have to use my hand. I just fed myself using this tool, holding the fork on my hand.
So are your toes and feet, are those functioning somewhat normal? Is it extremities that were attacked more, or is it just your hands?
With my diagnosis, the closer to the toes and closer to the fingers, the worse it is.
Okay. So is that something continually you're just going to continue to have to work on to hopefully get something back?
I tried really hard for 3 years, and the third year, or like 3.5 years, the last year of trying, when I say trying, I was going to some type of treatment, therapy, or exercise about 30 hours a week. And so I was giving everything I had to it. And the last year of recovery, I didn't have a return on that investment of time and money and energy. Like I wasn't getting really stronger, and I was trying so hard. And, you always see people with disabilities, or you think, oh, if I got injured, like I would make a full recovery because I would try as hard as I could. Well, I did try as hard as I could. There's not anything else in my life I can say that I really tried the hardest I could. And I was at a point where I just wasn't going to see improved function, which was hard. I'm talking about the Camino de Santiago. In my dreams, I always thought my last day I crossed the finish line, I'd go, like I said, be re-released out into the wild and start my life. But in that dream, I didn't realize on my last day, I would still be disabled forever. I would have disability in my hands and right leg forever. And that was hard. That was the only time I really kind of got depressed, was the moment I realized I'd always be disabled. And that was heavy. That was hard.
Yeah.
But I ran away to Morocco, got an Airbnb, did 18 days of fasting, and got my head back on straight.
18 days. You celebrated a 500-mile hike with fasting?
Yeah. Well,
You are so much mentally stronger than I am, for sure.
No, it was because on the hike, I ate so much bread and wine that I was like, I need to like get this cleaned up. This body needs to clean out.
Right. So you get done with Morocco, and then where did you get? What year are we talking here?
This is at the end of 2019.
Okay.
19. Okay.
And then
20,
nothing really happened in 2020.
Yeah, it was pretty quiet,
pretty
basic,
calm.
normal year. But you moved to Mexico. So what was the decision there? Why? I mean, you shared earlier, like, hey, I just want to go somewhere, and it's actually pretty awesome. But like, what was that decision to fully move to Cabo?
Yeah.
I mean, if anybody's been there, they're like, you idiot, why are you asking that
2020
question?
is when I went to the ashram and did the 120-hour hatha yoga intensive. That was kind of like my last Hail Mary to see if I could improve my body at all.
Yeah.
And then I get home in February and, y'all know the rest.
Yeah.
The world shuts down. So I thought, okay, well, I'm taking this as a big, big sign from somebody, God, universe, whatever you want to call it, to sit back down. You're not going anywhere. You're not ready. And I said, okay, well, I'm going to accept this time. I'm going to keep walking, spend time with my family, and just be here and try a little harder for a little longer. So I kept going to, I did some stuff they do for the Dallas Cowboys. It was some kind of machine where they put it on. It hurts really bad. It like electrocutes your whole,
the stem
all
machine.
your muscles.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
the
yeah.
stem. Yeah.
Yep.
The arc wave, that's what it's called.
Oh, the arc wave. Yeah. So it's like an ultrasound, but it stimulates. So they'll run anyways.
It hurts.
Yes, not fun, but it gets them jumping. It's a stem and ultrasound combo.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I was doing that and other stuff, really just being like, well, I'm here, so I'm going to keep trying. And I still wasn't seeing results. And then I just got really antsy. COVID went on, quarantine went on. And I thought, I've done this. At first, it was awesome. I'm like, yeah, y'all know what it's like now to have to stay home.
Welcome to my
I
world.
felt like I wasn't missing out on anything anymore. And I actually felt like I was going to get more compassion and empathy. Like, yeah, like that's what I've been doing. I've been going for walks around the neighborhood and, not being able to go anywhere. But eventually I got over it just like everybody else. But I was really over it because I'd already spent years doing that. So I couldn't go to Bali, couldn't go a lot of places. In Cabo, you can drive to. I drove in through Tecate, which is kind of close to Tijuana. I could drive here so I could have a car. It was warm, like cold weather is hard, and I know anybody that's had injuries can understand that. The cold weather just hurts your nerves and makes pain worse. So it's warm here year round. My family loves to visit here. I have friends that like to visit here. So it'd be a new place with some of my old life that would come to visit. And it's dry. It's dry. It's like a desert. It doesn't really rain much here. The weather is pretty nice year round.
Sounds like Texas.
The reasons.
Not so much.
So what do you do for a living now? What's your vocation?
Yeah, well, I do motivational speaking, and I'm really excited because live events are starting again. So I'm stoked for that. I've got a couple of those at the end of the year. Yeah, and then I just started writing my book. But weekly, I have a membership group where I teach personal development to people that have had major life changes or health conditions.
Yes.
And then I also work part-time for a marketing agency for copywriting stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'd say if there's anybody qualified to discuss personal development, I'd say you're right at the top of that list. Weird question, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
I hope it's weird. What is it?
It's weird to me. What do you miss most about that time?
About being paralyzed?
And you can say nothing, like
No, but that's not true. It doesn't matter what period of time we're in and what our situation is. There's always something about that time period you'll miss. And
I knew you would answer that way. That's why I asked.
Yeah, I have two answers for that. The first is, even at the time, I thought, okay, one day I'm going to have all these expectations of me again. I'll be working, married one day, like who knows what'll happen, but people are going to expect things of me. That's for sure. Like when I was paralyzed, even when I was capable of like calling somebody back, or I don't know, people say, oh no, don't worry. Like you're going through so much. Don't even think about us, but it's just like, no one had any expectations of you or judgments, and everyone's still loving and compassionate. But at that time I remember thinking, okay, I'm laying in bed all day watching Will Ferrell movies, talking to my friends on the phone. One day I'm going to be like, I wish I could just stay at home all day in bed watching Will Ferrell movies, talking to my friends on the phone.
Yeah.
So I was like, I just want to really like appreciate this quiet, relaxed time in life where I don't have responsibilities and I don't have people expecting things of me. The second is you guys asked me who took care of me, and I had two best friends that were very present. We did a documentary together, actually. And one of those two friends got cancer. And these are my two best friends. And she passed away June 24th, 2020. And it was lung cancer. She's not a smoker. She was 33. And something I tell people when they're like, oh, like I'm going through this health condition, I'm going through this situation and it sucks. It's like when I was at my worst, her name's Tressa. Tressa like snuck me out of the hospital one time and we're running down the street with my wheelchair, and like I went swimming in the ocean again for the first time with her, but she held my hand, and then she like dunked me underwater, which I could drown, and then she would fish me out laughing. And
that's a real best friend.
I used to talk to her when I started walking on my walker. The first mile I ever walked was on my walker, and it took me 45 minutes to walk my first mile on that walker. And I used to walk all the time behind my parents' house with my walker, just trying to get stronger. And I would talk to Tressa on the phone. She would just talk to me for hours while I'm just out there walking. And she died. And even at our worst times, there's people in your life. There's things in your life that aren't always going to be there. And there's always something in every part of our lives that we're going to miss one day.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's exactly actually why I asked that question. I didn't know, about Tressa, obviously, and I'm sorry to hear that, but that is why I asked that question, because I was just imagining this whole time, the people that were there closest with you in that time, you formed a bond together that can't be replicated any other way. We talk about it all the time. The people you suffer together with, you get closer than any other relationship. And so that's what I'm sitting here thinking this whole time is I can't imagine how close you got to people during that time, the people that were there with you day in and day out. I mean, that bond that you formed with them is unmatched.
Yeah, so many. And, it's true, you don't owe anyone your life, but there's people that did things for me that they would appreciate I didn't even say on a podcast because they're so intimate. But there's things people did for me that are just crazy, supportive, and amazing. And those people that were there, like, I don't owe them my life, but I want to give them anything I can for the rest of my life. It's like this special place in your heart that's just can't be tethered. Like it can't be shaken. It's just like this need to reciprocate and show how important that was that they did.
Man,
gosh, that's
you're amazing.
Yes. Well, Courtney, there's still some beach weather out there. We're not going to keep you the whole time, but honestly, from both of us, thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for sharing your mindset. I think there's so much that we can take from that you shared today. That I hope more people look at life through your eyes, because I think we would have a much better world if that were the case. But Courtney, I want to, if anybody's out there that would like to hear you or you come in and speak, how can they find you? How can they connect with you? Give us some social media, any contacts that you'd like to share, because we'd love for people to, because I'm telling you, like, I can't imagine in person. I don't know how much you're traveling right now, but like literally, like just the impact, really, truly, you will feel it when Courtney is in the room, guaranteed.
Yep.
Thank you. That's really sweet. Yeah, I would love anyone to reach out if that feels right, if you want to. You can join my Facebook group community. It's just called Unicort Community.
Yeah.
Unicort is UNICORT. There's a whole story behind that. That was basically like my superhero alter ego.
Yeah.
I think in psychology they call it disassociation, but whatever, it worked great.
Details.
Yeah, exactly. And then TikTok, Instagram, it's Unicort Life is my
Unicort Life.
Unicorn Life.
Okay.
At Unicorn Life. I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
We'll be sharing some of your things, but again, if you can just go check out some of her stuff, you know, and the journey that you shared. I mean, I would highly encourage it because, like, again, just you get emotional just watching just the perseverance and strength and mindset that you had, and you know, a bunch of your videos of you in like wigs and costumes and all that, and it's just like really truly you watch it like that is amazing.
Yeah, I think that's my biggest takeaway from your story is the choice that you have in the darkest moments.
It's not that you need to buy a wig.
Well, that too. I'm going to go buy a wig as well. No, but I do appreciate you so much and your story. And your story is exactly why when we envision this podcast and the encouragement that we want to be to people and the impact that we want to make, it's because of people like you and your story. And so thank you so much for sharing that. We're truly changed now. I know our listeners are going to be changed. And we look forward to the day that we get to meet you in person because you are doing amazing things. Thank you so much.
I would love that. And thank you for having me. You don't have many girls, so I feel very honored.
Yes, we definitely need to up our female guest game.
That's right.
No doubt.
That's right.
But thanks. And yeah, so we'll be down in Cabo in a couple of weeks to come visit you. I mean, you said we got a place to stay, right? We'll bring the whole crew. I got 6 of us. Ben's got 4 of them. We'll just come crash at your place, right?
Yeah, totally. Okay, I'm in. Cool. I've got a guest bedroom. The bed's small, but I think the 4 of y'all can fit in there.
If you figured out 30 countries in a year, figuring out sleep, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, too. That's right.
Thank you so much, Courtney.
Thanks, Courtney.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.